Let's dive in. So, the topic we're talking about today is one of the behaviors that we teach in our workshops here at LifeLabs.
The rounded shapes, so the hearts and the clubs, are blurry feedback. The pointed shapes, the spade and the diamond, point to a specific behavior that you want the person to keep doing or stop doing. When you have a name for something, you can recognize it more, you can compare it, you can improve it. So as we're giving a piece of feedback, to be able to say, ooh, hang on, that's a heart. Let me turn that into a diamond, right? As soon as we have the language to recognize that, then we're much more likely to be able to say, this feedback is not going to be actionable. Let me make it clearer.
Welcome to the Leader Lab podcast. I'm Micaela Mathre, Chief Marketing Officer at LifeLabs Learning. If you're a senior people leader, you're navigating a workplace that's changing faster than ever. This season, we're exploring what it really takes to build resilient and adaptable leaders, managers, and teams. Let's dive in.
Kathy, welcome to the Leader Lab. So excited to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
This is one of our mini episodes where we are so thrilled to bring on one of our in-house LifeLabs Learning facilitators and really get to learn and hear from their experience in real time. Kathy brings over 2 decades of experience in managing large-scale organizational change initiatives, cultivating strong teams, and building cultures of continuous learning. Recognizing that employees often lack the necessary context and resources to excel, especially in the virtual world. Let's dive in. So, the topic we're talking about today is one of the behaviors that we teach in our workshops here at LifeLabs, the playing cards method. It kind of follows so much of our promises. It's easy to remember. It's really applicable and actionable. Would love to hear a little bit from you, Kathy, in terms of maybe the overview of the playing card method.
So the playing cards method really is about giving a name to something. So we use the 4 suits that are in a deck of playing cards. So hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds to talk about feedback. Club is blurry critique. Now, when we say blurry is one of the words we use at Life Labs that we've kind of made up, oftentimes we say things that just aren't clear as to what they mean. So if I say, oh, Micaela, that podcast was a disaster, right? You feel like you're getting clubbed over the head with bad feedback, right? That's the club. It's not helpful, right? It's very vague and it's a criticism. So that's a club, getting clubbed over the head. Then there's the heart. Oh my gosh, Micaela, that podcast was awesome. Great. What did you like about it? Right. So again, it's still blurry, but this time it's praise. Right. And you think about like going on Instagram or any other social media, you hit that heart, right? Oh, I like it. I like it. I like it. But if you don't leave a comment, the person will have no idea what it is that you liked. So the hearts and clubs are very blurry. They don't give you anything to go on. So then we go to the more specific ones, diamonds and spades. A spade, think of a garden spade that helps you to like dig down to the root of the problem. It is specific criticism. So, Micaela, the audio quality on that podcast episode was really garbled, right? Now you know next time, oh, I need to pay more attention to the audio quality, right? I've given you something specific. So that's a spade, specific criticism. Then lastly, diamonds, the rare and precious gemstone, specific praise, right? Micaela, the follow-up questions that you asked the guest on the podcast were so on point and helped them to dig a little deeper into things that I think they were moving too quickly through. I could probably even get more specific than that, but you get the idea. Like now you know, okay, follow-up questions are really important. I need to dig deeper with people. And so you can keep doing that. Now, here's a way to remember this. The rounded shapes, so the hearts and the clubs, are blurry feedback. The pointed shapes, the spade and the diamond, point to a specific behavior that you want the person to keep doing or stop doing. And so when you have a name for something, you can recognize it more, you can compare it, you can improve it. So as we're giving a piece of feedback, to be able to say, ooh, hang on, that's a heart. Let me turn that into a diamond, right? As soon as we have the language to recognize that, then we're much more likely to be able to say, this feedback is not going to be actionable. Let me make it clearer.
That's so excellent. Thank you for that overview. This was a big aha for me, candidly. When I came aboard at LifeLabs, I realized so often in my career, I had given both clubs and hearts. And I was like, neither of those are useful. And you think you're doing a good job because you're like, well, I'm giving feedback, I'm telling them something. But I think the point that you made earlier around something useful and actionable, you tell
Hmm.
me that was terrible. I don't really know what to do with that except for feel bad and take it personally, right?
Right.
You tell me
Right.
the audio quality wasn't great, then suddenly, okay, I know I can go and make sure that next time we've got this set up and we can do something differently. It was interesting. So we just came from our sales offsite, and at the end of the day, our sales manager, Jesse, actually had us go around and do diamonds for each other. So we brought actually like a physical diamond that I somehow got through TSA. It was like a fake, not real. It was like a fake diamond, and it was huge, and we took it and we passed it around. It was kind of amazing because like the weight of it felt great, and you're like holding it, and we were giving diamonds to folks, and just to see the way that people's faces light up when they hear a diamond because they feel, and I can speak from my own experience, perhaps like you feel seen when someone gives you a diamond, you're like, oh, I feel seen in this moment, like you were actually paying attention to what happened there. And I think the same is true for a spade as well. It's always difficult, I think, oftentimes to receive feedback, especially a spade. And yet, when somebody is giving you a spade, they're paying attention in a different way. Even though you're like, ooh, there might be something I need to work on here or something I need to take away from this, it feels personalized. Do you have any specific examples or a workplace scenario of the playing cards method?
Just a couple of weeks ago in the workshop, I was working with a manager who said the piece of feedback she wanted to give to her employee was, it's obvious you've been using AI on a lot of your work. And I said, okay. And that's obviously a club. Well, actually, no, it's not obvious. It could have also been a heart, right? We needed to know, like, is it a good thing that you've been using AI or not? In this case, it was not. And so I said to her, I said, what are the things that this person has done, or what is it that you see in their work that makes you think they're using AI? Because when we use a heart or a club, we're leading with our assumptions, we're leading with our interpretation. And let's face it, we're all being encouraged to use AI, right? So we don't want to demonize using AI, but what is it that is indicating that to you? What is it that's making you believe that? And so she said, well, the proposal that she put together lacked the specificity about this client's particular situation, and it lacked some specificity on how we could address those things. And I said, okay, much more specific there, right? So if I said, it's obvious you're using AI, the takeaway might be, okay, I need to stop using AI. And that's not necessarily what we want people to do. So instead, if you go in with, I notice that your report lacked specificity in these two areas, and here's why we need that specificity. Now that person not only knows how to write a better report themselves, but they can tell AI, like, I need you to be specific in these areas. And then when they look over the output from AI, they're going to know to check for that. It's not just, I see this and I think you're using AI. It's what is the thing? Because let's make that thing better, right? And now that person knows for their own skills and they can teach the AI to do it so that they're producing much more specific and useful reports in a much more effective and efficient way by implementing AI where it's appropriate.
That's such a great example. And I think something so many of us can relate to. And I also appreciate what you said around, the feedback. I can tell you used AI could be interpreted in two different ways, right?
Right,
Depending
right.
on the company culture and expectation. I mean, so many organizations these days do have an expectation that folks are using AI. And
Yeah.
so that could be very blurry for folks in terms of, are we saying that's a good thing that I used it, or is that a negative thing? Like, what is the side of it? So, Kathy, I'd love to hear just a summary if you think about the playing cards method.
So just a reminder that the rounder shapes are the blurry feedback, right? So hearts and clubs. So a heart is a blurry praise. So that was a fantastic presentation. And a club is blurry criticism. That was a terrible presentation, right? Neither of them give you the actionable feedback that you need to make the next presentation better, right? Because we don't know what was it that was, wonderful or terrible about it. So the pointed shapes, spades and diamonds, point to a specific behavior. So a diamond is specific praise. The slide deck on your presentation was loaded with images. There was hardly any text, and the images that you included added information to what you were saying and helped me to stay engaged, right? That would be a diamond. Notice diamonds take a lot more words, right? When we get more specific, it's a lot more words that come out. And then spades would be specific criticism. So your slide deck had over 20 words per slide and very few images, and it made it hard for me to listen and read at the same time. The specific, the pointed feedback points to a specific thing, and that is what is actionable. So we know what to keep doing or stop doing.
I recently got wind of an idea that you were talking about with a client of ours, this idea around diamond days. So can you tell us a little bit about what's a diamond day? What's the idea there?
That was a company that I was working with in Boston where I do most of my facilitation. I love when this happens. They had the entire company, from the CEO down to the newest IC, all take the feedback skills workshop over the course of several days. And what I love about that is it sends a clear message to everybody that this is important, right? That everybody is going to get in on this. And then everyone has that shared language so that you can talk about diamonds and spades because everyone knows what it is. In working with the sponsor, I suggested, now that you've done this, how can you get this traction going, right? People are interested in this, they've had fun with this, and now let's put it into use. And so we talked about them doing a diamond day where everyone would find a way that day to give at least one diamond to someone. They were talking about ways to celebrate it, different ways to make it fun. I wish I had known about your giant diamond. I want to know where you got that. That might be fun. But yeah, just a way to celebrate. I think we're much more likely to give hearts than clubs, right? I think most of us know most of the time that a club is not great. We say all the time, oh, great job, you're a rock star. And one of the things that happens is when everyone knows praise in public, criticize in private, right? When you give a heart in public, oh, Micaela, you're the best, right? You're awesome. Everybody else sort of, I'll never be as good as Micaela, right? She's so awesome. But if instead I say, Micaela, the way you planned that activity at the offsite and you had something tangible that people could pass to each other, it just brought so much more impact. And it gave people sort of a way to focus on each other after a long day of working together, right? What I've done right there, if I do that publicly, is I've given everyone the recipe to Michaela's secret awesome sauce. By giving a diamond publicly, I'm telling everyone when you plan an offsite, you need to have activities where people move around and, do a thing and keep them focused. And so everyone leaves with a blueprint for how to be as awesome as Michaela.
That is so interesting. And I'm literally thinking of examples of when I have done that and been on the receiving end of both kinds of that public praise. Something we have been talking a lot about with the sales and marketing teams that I'm currently running at LifeLabs, celebrating the small wins because it builds momentum and it's just energizing for folks. Like we don't just celebrate the big ones, we're celebrating the small ones too. And I love this idea around Diamond Days. And when you're celebrating those wins, be as specific as you can, because what you just shared with us was you can actually have a ripple effect. If you celebrate the small wins and you share a specific example of what that is, and you give a really specific diamond, then you give other people access to what that was. And I love that, the secret sauce, right? Instead of just that person's a rock star, they're so amazing. It's like, what do you mean when you say that? And how
Hmm.
can other folks kind of learn from that? I love that. I think that's something our listeners could really benefit from as well. I know we've got a lot of folks in the Life Labs community that listen to the podcast and are always thinking about actionable ways to reinforce the learning. And I think a diamond day will look very different for, each organization, depending on your culture and your channels. Another idea that we recently had was a channel in Slack where you can share diamonds or feedback, and again in a more public forum. And I think there's a lot of ways to go about doing that. So for folks that are listening that haven't taken our feedback skills workshop, that is one of our workshops that's very resonant with clients. And I think one of these areas, I could speak to my own experience in this. We never become perfect at giving feedback, right?
Oh,
It is
no.
something, it is a something we always have to be learning and improving and iterating off of, and we just can't practice it enough. I don't think it ever becomes easy going in both directions. I can even think about this week when I gave hearts and I work at LifeLabs and I talk and
Yep.
talk about the playing cards method. I'm like, oh yeah, I do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say feedback skills is our most popular workshop. So I should go and see how many times have I taught that workshop because I'm sure it's a lot. And even like just last week, I had to give some difficult feedback to a friend. And I opened up our Life Labs Learning platform and I went to Lab Coach AI and because I was up in my feelings, right? So I wrote what I wanted to say to her and I put it in our Lab Coach AI function, and it helped me to deblur it because it has been taught all of our Life Labs methods, and so there was work to be done, right? Even though I teach this all the time, in the moment when I'm feeling a certain way, it can be hard to deblur. So yeah, we're human. It takes time. It takes practice.
Was that helpful for you to kind of see it in that way?
Yep. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes, thank you. That's exact, but I couldn't in the moment because I was upset and I was like, no, this is good. This helped. Yeah.
What a great example. And I think I've actually done the same thing with Lab Coach AI, where, right, if you were just to go into a more generic LLM, there could be a lot of different methods that you would
Hmm.
get out of that. And I think one of the benefits, especially for listeners who are clients of ours, is that Lab Coach is trained on the playing cards method and our feedback skills workshop. And so when you go in there, you're going to have that framework that you've learned, but then you're going to get that specificity around for your specific example, how you might apply it. So it's a great
Yeah.
example. Um,
And it's going to use that language of diamonds and spades, which again then makes it easier to remember because it's language we're already using. So yeah,
exactly.
it's a great tool.
Amazing. Well, Kathy, thank you so much for joining me today. It
Thank
was so
you.
great to have you. I always like to ask folks who are on the podcast if people want to reach out to you, get in touch, they've got questions about what you shared today, what's the best way to do that?
So you can reach me at LifeLabs, Kathy with a K and a Y at lifelabslearning.com. I am also on LinkedIn. It's Kathy Pearce, Pearcenh. So Kathy Pearce NH on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Thank you again for joining us. It was so great
Thank
chatting
you.
with you today.